So I'm going to have everybody introduce yourself, who you're caring for, who you've cared for, and then what type of dementia, if you know what it is. So start.
I'm Kim Parker. I'm caring for my mom, Jean Ryan, and she was diagnosed with dementia, probable Alzheimer's.
Probable Alzheimer's. And age,
She is 82.
okay, so on the older side.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Christy Talbot. I have taken care of my mom who had a vascular type dementia.
Okay.
And at the exact same time, I was taking care of my husband who was diagnosed early at age 41. He was given 4 to 5 years possibly, and we have beat all those odds. He's at 16 years. And he has Alzheimer's.
He has Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And your mom had vascular,
Yes.
has vascular.
She's
had.
passed.
So she
Yes.
passed, and he survived long past what people said
Yes.
would happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And Craig.
And I am Craig Schmidt. My wife Linda has, she's been diagnosed with dementia, and they write in the paper, in her medical papers, that she has Alzheimer's. I don't know how they derived that diagnosis, but
Okay.
I know from enough reading that she has Lewy body dementia.
Okay.
You
So
know,
you've done your own
I've done
background
my
work,
own, you
and
know,
her
she-
symptoms are more consistent with Lewy body than they are with Alzheimer's.
I don't see where Alzheimer's has any of those symptoms, to tell you the truth.
So when you've looked it over, it's like,
So-
wonder how
so-
they did that. Yeah.
How did they give her a diagnosis of Alzheimer's? Well, one of the doctors is in a sleep clinic, and he's a neurologist in a sleep clinic. So I'm thinking, we go in. He's 1 year.
And
he
you
says,
took her in because she was having sleep issues, I'm thinking.
No.
No.
No,
So
I called her family doctor.
okay.
And I said, listen, my wife has this going on and that going on. Oh, we'll check her. And then she said, we go into her family doctor. She said, so I think she's got dementia. Let me send you to a neurologist.
Neurology.
So we
okay.
go to the neurologist. He says, well, you've got dementia. Take these pills and come back and see me in a year.
Oh,
And so
Wow.
she takes the pills and goes back to see him in a year, and we get in
how
there.
was that year for you? How was that year for the two of you?
Well, I just treat her like another one of the days that she's alert. She is still herself, but not herself,
And that went on for a year.
Well, that was up until October last year. We went in to see the same doctor October last year, and he says, well, she still has dementia. Take some more pills. I'm going to prescribe these. And then we go in to see her family doctor, and I look up in her MyChart paper saying, well, she's got Alzheimer's. What have they done to determine this, So I have made some phone calls. I have another doctor, what do you call it? In my old age, I lose my words. The geriatrics doctor,
Geriatrician.
who is also a neurologist
Okay.
who does specifically dementia. And I talked with Denise Butler, and together we came up with this. Well, she most likely has Lewy body, and I keep watching, and there's nothing that points any other direction. So,
So you're
to
going to
my
be
knowledge,
seeing
she has Lewy
Lewy
body,
body.
but it's not listed
not
in
in her
her
chart.
In her chart.
So as her primary support person, you're still wanting to pursue so it gets accurate. You want really that
Yeah,
info
well,
to be accurate because it could matter
Yeah, it could
in her
matter. How do you
care.
medicate properly if you don't know what it is she has?
Right. And so you're still pursuing that. You're not letting go of that. You're
Right.
advocating for her.
In about 2 weeks, she has another doctor appointment,
Okay.
and hopefully we can get this resolved.
So you'll get some answers that make more sense to you
Yeah.
and for your wife. And to plan ahead, you don't really, right now, it's not a big deal, but it could be if you don't know and
Well,
something happens.
if she outlasts me, it will be a
It will be an issue.
Well, it will be a big deal either way if I
Yeah.
outlast her. But
Yeah, could.
yeah.
Well, thanks, Greg, because that's sort of, I'm going to start us off because one of the questions I have is when I talk about dementia, I talk about the truth about dementia. And the truth is that at least two parts of somebody's brain are dying. I mean, and maybe more as it moves onward. They're actively dying. It's not just like it was a stroke and now we're done with it and now we're dealing with it. It's still changing. That there's nothing currently that causes us to get rid of the dementia and the dementia gets better and it goes away and you don't have it anymore. That it will progress. It is going to change over time. There's no holding it still. It's depending on the type and where it goes next. And finally, that ultimately it will result in people not being able to stay alive. It will kill enough of the parts of the brain that run you that you can't run your body anymore. So when you hear those, is that the very first time you're hearing that kind of information, or was it something that you figured out or you were told? And if so, where did you get it, that information?
I could start with that. For my husband, being diagnosed at 41, it was strictly go home, get your affairs in order, and come back and see us in a year. And I was shocked. I was sitting there, we can't do that. We have to fight this. He's so young and there's nothing else wrong with him. So that started my journey on trying to find out everything I could find out about Alzheimer's.
So you became really, really invested.
Yes.
When you look back and you're thinking about it, was it early on in symptom progression that you noticed, or were you already getting on into it by the time
Well,
it got
he
picked
started having symptoms when he was 38.
Wow.
And he was full-time job, heavy stress, lots of hours.
Gotcha.
And we started noticing things with getting lost, locking himself out of his office, locking his car, and multiple times a day.
And it was
And they tend to do these workarounds so that they don't have to tell people. Like he would have 5 sets of keys to his car, and we didn't know. But his men started noticing things at his work. And that's when I started finding out and I started really watching. And for my husband, the big thing was he played in orchestras, had a long history of courthouse players, had a music background, and he started messing up his music. He could no longer play right. He couldn't remember words to the songs that he knew forever. And that's when I really knew there was something incredibly wrong. If it hadn't been for that, it might have been another year before we would have
because it was stress.
started.
It was a hard job. He was
Yes.
he was not sleeping a lot. He was really trying to work
Yes.
hard. But the music,
The
that joyful
music.
music piece, that he was losing that
Right.
was a real wake-up call for you and a call for advocacy. We need to get this looked
Absolutely.
at as soon as possible. I don't think
Yes.
this is just work-related stress anymore.
And that's one of the music part of his illness showed me that every person with dementia or Alzheimer's is different. Every single one.
Yeah.
Because he can't be in a room with any type of music. It sets him off, shuts him down, and he can't be near it.
So for him, it was so much a part of his previous life. Hearing any of it now
Yes,
is a break point.
absolutely.
It's a trigger for him.
Well,
of-
and it's the counting and the numbers. He hears all the different instruments coming in, and it's way too much for his brain.
so he can't do that.
He cannot function when he's around music.
So he lives at home with you?
He does, yes.
Okay, and you're still doing it at home?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So at the same time that was happening, you were already in his middle of his care when
Right.
your mom came on board.
Yes.
So how was her onset when you talk about
Her
that?
onset was what we always think is, oh, it's her age. She's just getting a little forgetful.
Mhm.
But no, my mom would get in the car, someplace she's been 100 million times, have no idea. She would park the car, forgot she parked the car there, maybe start walking home.
Yeah.
Those big signs.
Do you feel like you caught hers more in the middle of
Oh,
her
I knew
dementia
what to-
versus the very early part?
I
of
knew
her
what to look for by then.
Uh-huh.
I really noticed it right away.
Mhm.
Went to the doctor, said, this is what we're dealing with. And he agreed that she was having some form of dementia.
Were you living close together?
No, not
No.
at that. Well, she lived 3-4 miles away, so
Okay.
close. But
But
with
not-
Don's care, I couldn't just drop by mom's every day.
Mhm.
So luckily, my mom agreed to move in with us.
Did
It
she
was
agree
great.
to help you, or did she agree because she
came
needed
to
some
help
support?
me.
Okay, so
And
you
that's the
used
way I
helping.
approached it. I really
Okay.
need help.
Yeah.
And she loved the idea that she could be helpful. So when she came on board, something really pleasant happened. I found out that you put two sweet people with dementia
Sure.
together,
Uh-huh.
and they actually work
They
together.
support one another,
Right.
and it takes a little of the load off you
Right.
when everybody's getting along.
My
at least.
husband would go in the kitchen, so my mom would get up, go in the kitchen. What are you here for? My husband would say, I don't know. My mom would, she'd say, what are you in here for? She would always say, I'm in here for a cookie. You want a cookie? And they would get cookies. It worked great,
Worked great.
until it didn't.
Until it didn't. And
My
that was-
mom progressed much
quickly
faster than my
Chris
husband.
did. Yeah.
And towards the end, it was really difficult. In fact, I never listened to the advice I give others.
Mm.
I thought, we can do this, we can do this. And it about killed me.
That
It
killed
really
you.
did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you have to really get sick?
I was probably 3 or 4 days away from getting really, really sick.
Mhm.
I was no energy, just no sleep, because
Mhm.
mom would get up,
Mhm.
wander around, and fall. Even with some help with sleeping medication, she would still do it.
Mm.
So that was the biggest problem. Then I would have to wake my husband up to help me get her up. And so no one in the house was getting sleep. And that's when I called a family member. I had the problem with my mom refused to have people she didn't
She wanted
know
people
in the
in the
house.
Mhm.
Not that she didn't know them, she had forgotten
Right.
who they are. And so that left my husband and I and my brother. And my brother, he was so helpful, but he didn't want to believe she was as far advanced
Mm.
as she was. And
Mhm.
so I had to call him in the middle of the night and say, look, you got to take mom to the ER. We just can't do it.
I can't do it anymore.
And I guess the last thing I want to say about that is, unfortunately, the doctors, the ER, they, for some reason in my mom's case, weren't able to share with me, look, she may not be here in the next week or two.
Oh.
Nobody did that because she had just found out she might also have cancer. So everybody wanted to wait for her to get this biopsy. I knew she didn't have long.
Mhm.
My brother wouldn't
Oh.
agree to that until a doctor told him that.
So you had
But
to.
I had seen the signs because we've gone through
Mm-hmm.
support groups. My husband's outlived 2 full support groups.
Mhm.
And so we've seen signs. And I
Mhm.
told him, I said, I don't think mom's going to be here much longer.
Mhm.
And the second night in a row, I called my brother, who lives an hour away. I said, you
Mhm.
got to take mom back to the ER. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And that next morning, they sent her home on hospice, and she passed 36 hours later.
Wow.
But
Wow.
you're working to the bone
Yeah.
to go to a professional for help, and
Not get the help you're looking for is
you
really
won't,
hard.
mostly if you have other disease
Mhm.
processes going on, wait for the biopsy.
Yeah. We're
Wait
gonna
for the biopsy.
evaluate it.
But we all knew.
paid it, not noticing how significant the dementia
Yeah.
was.
So I think that it taught me we can't just look at the layer of dementia.
Mhm.
Each person is different. Each person's health will be different.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the hardest thing about my mom's passing
Mhm.
that I had to deal with. I knew my husband and I did everything we
Right.
could for her, everything.
Yeah.
My brother
Beyond.
did everything he could.
Good.
And I think in that instance, we possibly didn't get the help from the medical world that we needed.
That it would have made it better for her, better for you, and get the
Yes.
right thing at the right time in the right place.
Yes,
So that could have happened better than
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'm very good at communicating with doctors,
Mhm.
and I had a notebook with
it did.
everything.
All the stuff. Yeah.
And it was, well, we still have to wait
We
for
have
that.
to wait for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
we
wasn't
were
the right
and
answer.
we were suffering, my husband and I, my brother, taking care of her.
Yeah.
And my mom was the one who suffered because
Who
she
didn't
needed
get the
she
support
needed pain medication that she didn't get
that she didn't
until
get until the
36 hours.
biopsy, quote unquote. Yeah.
Yes.
Until hospice happened. For you.
To answer your question, I have been in the healthcare
Mm.
industry for 30 years and
Mhm.
from the beginning was very involved with Alzheimer's and different committees and different events that we organized. So I have a good education
Mhm.
on the Alzheimer's and dementia and the process. And, if it's not really a by the book,
Right.
but, there are
Patterns.
symptoms and
Mhm.
patterns that
Mhm.
people do follow. So I know what's coming. I think for me, the challenge is I know it's coming, but I don't like not being able to be proactive
Mm.
because you don't know when is that
Yeah.
I'm going to, she gets in the car and she ends up
Surprise.
where she doesn't know
Yeah.
where she is.
Yeah.
It's like you're very limited on being able to be proactive.
You can plan ahead, but you can't plan on
Right.
anything.
Right. Because
So
you don't know.
recognizing it's going to be short.
Mhm.
No, it's not. It's going to be long. No, it's not.
It's going to
This is
be
gonna
when it
happen.
is.
And it's like, so having to live in the moment after doing some planning.
Yes.
Yeah. Craig, you like to plan ahead.
I am Mr. Clueless. I can't plan ahead if I don't know what's going to happen. So it's got to happen before I can plan. I'm reactive. I'm not proactive.
So, but you'd like to be able to plan ahead, but the
I'd
problem
like to.
is
Yeah,
that
I would
is,
like to.
and so until you get an answer, until you know what is exactly happening for her, feels like you're stuck a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a hard place to be. Now I'm going to bring up a topic and a word that comes up a lot in the world of dementia: guilt. Feeling a sense of guilt, feeling guilty, not feeling guilty, feeling good about what I do. Somebody guilting you, trying to dump the guilt somewhere. Well, why are you doing this? You just want this. You're doing this because of that. Any of the three of you have any story or anything related to guilt? Sounds like for you, and
No,
I'm just,
we live our life. Luckily, my husband's
Mhm.
still most of the time able to communicate with me.
Mhm.
And our biggest hope is if I were to outlive him,
Mhm.
I don't want to be at the end of his journey regretting anything, feeling guilty about anything.
Okay.
And so it's very important to us to keep those lines of communication
Mhm.
open. And of course, we can't do that every day.
Nope.
But because we talked about it so much in the beginning, I
Mhm.
know what he wants, how he wants to be cared for,
Okay.
and his priorities in his
Mhm.
care.
Did you, as part of that, Christy, say, as long as I can, this is what I'm promising, as long as I can?
I've always said, to the best of my abilities, I
Mhm.
will do what I know you want.
Okay.
That is, as long as it's safe for you
Mhm.
and you are cared for and you are being treated in the loving manner that I always want you treated. And we've been able to do that,
Okay.
luckily.
Luckily. And
Not
I
everybody
don't know that
can.
luck it's not just luck. It's a lot of the heavy
Right.
work that you've chosen
Yes.
to do. Craig, how about you? Any guilt so far or any sense of feeling guilty about things?
Well, no guilt. I mean,
Mhm.
what happens happens. Sometimes there's regrets I didn't do things differently, but
That's Monday morning quarterbacking or
well,
what?
just in the way I handle situations, or well, she did this, and this should have been my response, and
Uh-huh.
I struggle continually on responding properly because it's my tendency to just
To
get
do a reaction, to
defensive
do a
or
reaction rather
Yeah,
than
yeah,
respond.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
You've come to a level of awareness you didn't have before, though.
Well, I've been working on this
Uh-huh.
ever since I met her. She's my number two, and she's the love of my life.
Okay.
And I don't want to do things wrong, and even though I'm just a guy,
You're just learning
and
about,
well, life is just one long learning experience.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and you're easier on yourself when it's not about her.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, well,
You're sort of hard on yourself when it's about her.
yeah.
Yeah. But you're trying new things.
Well, I try continuously, but I know I don't do everything right. So
Well, I don't know that we got anybody in the circle that does. I mean,
no.
perfection is not the end of life. It's trying new things and being willing to make a mistake and go, okay, well, that didn't go well.
but
So
I don't feel guilty about it because
Good.
I know I
Yeah.
tried.
that's
That's
all.
right.
That's all we can do. And so that process of recognizing, well, that didn't work right. Should I try it again, or should I let it go and try something else?
My experience is if it didn't work the first time and you try it again the second time, that's insanity.
And you just keep trying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So that idea of you can try it a couple times, but after that, it's sort of time to move on to try something else. Good. Yeah. What about over here?
I think for me, the challenge was Mom is such a sweet, positive, loving, just a beautiful person. And when we asked her to do the initial memory assessment, she got defensive. And so I don't know that it was guilt, but we're a family that has not had those hard conversations. I am so, inspired by you and your communication. Our family didn't have that and doesn't have that. But my sister and I are doing it now,
Trying to figure it out,
working
yeah.
with Mom.
Yeah.
But she was very mad with us, and that was hurtful.
So you pushed and she pushed back.
Yeah, and then, they referred her to another assessment. So she did 2 assessments, really angry with us, not understanding, because she wasn't remembering that she wasn't remembering. So it was really, she did it. We have, my sister and I have the information that we need to move forward. But yeah, that was a hard time because Mom's never been angry with us, and she was angry
And she
with
was really
us,
angry.
and that was hard.
Does she recall being angry with you, or is that gone?
I don't even know.
Okay. Do you?
We don't go back there.
Have you had incidents since then
No,
about anything else?
no.
No.
She's now very receptive. If I offer to go to a doctor's appointment, yeah, that would be great. So she's a little more, I think she's a little more aware.
And I'm going to ask,
She won't.
I heard you say something different. I offered to go with her to a doctor's appointment, as opposed I tell her that we're going to go to the doctor and I'm going to go
Right.
with her. Did that change at all?
I
or-
think
Oh,
that made her more receptive,
Oh, so she
to
wasn't the
yes.
only one who did some changing, maybe.
probably.
So you decided maybe you used early on the word care partner. You
Right.
decided to be her partner in this because having that pushback was
Yeah.
really hurtful for both of you.
And I'm a controlling person, so it's easy for me, and with having the education, it's easy for me to say, let's do this, let's do
Yeah.
that. And, I'm reading some books to say, Kim, pull yourself back and offer.
Make an offer.
Don't
You know.
tell her what she needs to do, offer.
Yeah.
So that's been a much better receptive response.
And so
yes.
you keep your mom that loving sweet
Yes.
person.
Yes.
Good job. Nice work. Craig, would you say your wife is loving and caring and easy to get along with, or would you say she's more of her own person and she likes her independence?
Yes to both.
Yes to both.
Mhm.
Yes to both. And you bought that. I mean, that was before she ever got dementia. Is that
Right,
true?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's just she's being true to who she is.
Yeah.
And you knew that going into the relationship.
Yes, I wouldn't have gone into the relationship any other way.
Okay, that's the kind of person you were looking for in your life. With your mom, did you feel that time when you just couldn't keep going anymore? Did you accept that there was no guilt there? It's just, I can't do anymore. Or
I
was there
was-
still guilt?
No guilt, but I was so disappointed in myself
Hmm.
that I couldn't keep doing it. And it was really difficult for me to accept that because, we are the best caregiver of our loved one. Nobody else will know. And for my mom, that's pretty true. She was very, very independent. She was private. And she only wanted people she remembered around her.
Yeah.
So it made it a little more difficult.
Yeah.
With my husband, he's friendly. He loves having anybody and everybody to come
Okay.
in when he's feeling okay.
When he feels okay.
Yes. And so it's completely opposite with taking care of my mom and taking care of my husband. Totally opposite when it comes to that.
You brought up lack of sleep as
Yes.
being a real problem
Yes.
for staying in the role of a really effective carer and taking care of people and taking care of yourself. How long and how little sleep were you doing, do you think?
I would say the 2 weeks before the phone calls from my brother to take my mom to the ER, I would say we might get an hour, hour and a half sleep. And then it was a whole process of mom getting up again, mom falling again. Then she wants something to eat,
Yeah.
getting her settled. It was very little sleep and none of it quality sleep.
Do you think, looking back, and this isn't anything but just being curious, do you think she was in pain at night? And
I
that
think
was
she
why she was
was.
getting up?
I think
and
she
it was a
was.
pain behavior
Yes.
rather than just dementia behavior?
Because she was also dealing with full-blown cancer and lots of bone pain, which we would go to the ER and ask for
Pain
something.
medication.
Well, we really want to know what was going on. And she didn't want pain medicine. She said, I don't want pain medicine. I want to understand what's going on. That's what she kept expressing to them.
When you went to the ER, how
But
many
yes.
trips did it take? Now, this was before the last trips.
Right. She
So
was.
before the trips, those last trips,
Yes.
did anybody suggest the possibility of hospice or palliative care?
No one. But I
No
knew about it.
Huh.
I knew about it.
Okay.
And that's when I asked.
And they
the
knew and
always-
you knew that she had cancer?
They knew that her doctor had said that he did an ultrasound. He said it was cancer. But
Okay.
to be diagnosed with it, you have to have a biopsy. So we heard like a broken record, wait for the biopsy.
Oh,
Well, the cancer
wow.
doctor told us the
Okay.
day, okay,
Yeah, no, I got it now because I
Yeah.
was like, I thought that was just in that last period. But this had been
Right.
going on for a bit.
she was really sick for the last 4 months
Wow.
of going to the ER,
Okay.
maybe once every week and a half.
And it wasn't that you weren't identifying it, it was
We
that
knew.
the routine, that the pattern of the dementia apparently made it really hard for others in the medical
Yes.
system to recognize maybe this is something more that we need to really seriously take a
Right.
look at.
And unfortunately, with my mom's dementia, she would always say, she would come in, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And she wasn't understanding why she felt the way she felt,
Yeah.
that she was in pain.
Right. She didn't recognize what it was pain
Right.
from
right.
this thing that was happening inside her.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we're looking at sleep, so yours was clearly
Yeah.
doing too little, too little, too little.
Right.
Has sleep entered the equation for you, your mom, your sister at all yet?
Not yet.
Not
no.
yet. How many hours a night do you tend to get?
Mom is still living on her own.
Uh-huh.
So I think she gets a pretty significant,
7
I
to
think she
8?
gets up to, to use the restroom,
Uh-huh.
but she's getting a good amount of sleep. So she's
Mhm.
not interrupted. I'm not interrupted.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we're probably a year and a half into this,
Mhm.
and we're in the very early stages
Mhm.
of
When she got
seeing
really upset
behaviors.
about the diagnosis
Hmm.
and getting that done, how was your sleep pattern during that?
Mine was fine.
No, I mean, that's
I
a
wear a
really
CPAP
important
machine, so
question.
when my head hits
Okay.
the pillow, I'm out.
Well, that's, I mean,
So, but that's not to say in the
mhm,
future that there's going
mhm.
to be situations I know that are going to keep me awake at night,
Yeah.
and decisions that have to be made that are going to keep me awake at night. So I know it's coming. We're not there
Mhm.
yet.
Okay. And so you have a good sleep pattern. You know what to do
Yes.
for healthy sleep, but you're acknowledging that may not be the case
Right.
when the moment
Mm.
comes and you're
Right.
really struggling with making the right decision or trying to manage things that are hard to manage.
Could I mention one other thing? In 2015, my father, he also had cancer and he passed away. And my mom and I were taking care of him, and I was taking care of Don at the same time. I was not getting sleep. I have a medical problem, MS,
Mhm.
and
Ooh.
the non-sleep
Oops.
is a big issue.
Ooh,
And I
yeah.
got really, really sick after my dad died.
Yeah.
And it was from all of that
How long did
caregiving.
it take you to recover from that?
Well, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks and then had to go to inpatient rehab for over a month. My husband and I lived in our home alone. My son was a teacher in Norfolk. I was in the hospital. I wish I had seen your video about don't plan in the crisis mode. We were in crisis mode. I was not with it.
Mm.
I couldn't walk from here down.
Yep.
We were in crisis, and we had to do a lot of things. And I do have one regret, guilty feeling
That
about
thing.
one thing. It was that I didn't have that plan. My son had to leave a love teaching job to come home and live with my husband.
Ooh,
And
ouch.
he then got a job at a nursing home facility as a director of care, as far as like recreational and things like that. And he did that for a year and then was able to go back to teaching. So it had a good turnout, but he's still with us today
Yeah.
because he saw
What
a
was-
need.
Mhm.
And it is,
You didn't ask him. He decided he needed to be
he
part
wanted
of
to.
this.
And his girlfriend's wonderful
Mhm.
with that. She comes stay with us 4 days a week. She
Mhm.
lives in Richmond. But the reason why I brought that up, if that had happened, if
Mhm.
that hadn't happened
Mhm.
when my mom got sick, I would never have made the phone calls for
Yeah,
help.
You wouldn't have actually done that, and you would have gotten yourself back in a
And
situation.
I slapped my hand a little bit because I should have done it sooner than later. And so
Yeah.
it was another reminder.
So as you're doing, it's sort of the Craig thing. Yeah, it's sort of like I know better. I want to do better, and doggone it, this time I am going to do a little better. But
when
it's
you're in the fire, you don't think straight. You're just doing A, B,
well,
and
it's
C
the
that
frog.
has to get
It's
done.
the frog in the pot. It's a simmer,
Right.
and you don't realize you're getting cooked until like you're
That's a
almost
good
gone.
way to put
and
it,
that's
yes.
like I missed it. If they turned the heat up real quick, you might have noticed. But
Right.
no, it was just this gradual thing that you missed.
Mhm.
So if you were to think about the idea of your person rejecting you,
Mm.
you had that one moment. Craig, have you had any rejections yet from your spouse?
No, praise God. I
I'm glad.
Okay, that's good to hear. And Christy, has your husband had a reject you thing moment yet due to the dementia or anything along that? Like I
Well,
said, no, leave it alone. kind of thing?
yes. And
did.
my husband is like Craig, the love of my life. We have been best friends since we started dating. We've been
Mhm.
married for 37 years.
Wow.
And when he gets to the point, it's not every day,
Mhm.
but he will have meltdowns. He will scream and yell at me and say things. And I, thank goodness, someone told me once, that's not your husband. That is Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
That is not your husband.
Mhm.
Let that go. And while it's happening, I can't interrupt him to get him to stop because it's not going to work. It only agitate him more.
Mhm. Needs to get it out of his
I just
system.
look at him and my heart is breaking, But I'm saying, that's not my husband. That is the disease talking to me. He is frustrated. And then while he's doing that, I'm thinking, what led up to this
How do we
point?
get here? Yeah.
What made this,
Mhm.
what made him
What's
snap?
triggering this? What's the trigger?
Right. What can we do different?
Mhm.
And when I started looking at that, it didn't hurt as much, although
Uh-huh.
it still breaks your heart.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to experience.
Because I actually take that as I'm not doing my job
Ah.
the way I should be doing it.
But if you're the best carer, then if you were to give it to someone else, would they do any better?
I don't know.
Oh.
My husband does go to Daybreak
Mhm.
when I have things,
Uh-huh.
doctor visits and
Yeah.
things that I need to do. And so I sort of tend to see what they do as well.
Mhm.
And that's helped me.
Mhm.
But it's a learning experience
Yeah.
every day.
So you're only using Daybreak episodically. Have you thought of expanding into length or frequency and what might be getting in the way?
Well,
from that?
there's financial
Mhm.
things we have to take
Yeah,
into account.
when you start really young,
When you start looking at Daybreak and all that. So
Yeah.
those are times where I need to go. One of the problems with my husband is I can't take him in the car very far. The stimulus
Mhm.
and the starting
Over-
and stopping, and it's really, really difficult for me to put him in the car and go somewhere.
He's
I
hypersensitive.
really have to think about it.
Is
So
it worth it?
it's worth the money to take care of his needs.
Gotcha.
But
The transitions are not easy, and he would
Transitions are
not
not
do well on
easy.
a bus. I'm
no.
betting.
And the other thing that we've done is he has 3 good guy friends
Uh-huh.
that will actually pick him up either for breakfast and take him
Okay.
to breakfast or to lunch to give me a
Mhm.
little bit of a break. And he probably does that once or twice a week.
Uh-huh.
And just that little amount of
Little
time
bit
is
of break.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really makes a big difference.
Cool.
Mm.
Good. Good. So one final question for folks. What are you doing that's making you flourish or live well as someone who's supporting someone with dementia? What are you doing that really causes you to feel like, yeah, this is going well?
As far as my mom's
As far as you
dementia
go.
or my
As far
personal
as you
well-being.
go. Yeah.
Um,
And it making a difference for you. I mean, maybe even just what you're doing that makes you feel good about what you're doing.
yeah, I have taken on a part-time job
Mhm.
that is really helping me have that excitement again, and
Okay.
I'm really enjoying
So
that.
you're living with purpose. Your job gives you purpose.
My day job gives me purpose,
Uh-huh.
but I'm 10 years in. So this is
Uh-huh.
something
You need
new that
something
a
new.
new little part-time
Uh-huh.
endeavor that is really bringing me joy, and I'm really having fun with it. And that's helping me
Be present for your mom.
be present for my mom, even be, there was also a book I'm reading, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but I got it at the conference we were at, and
Mhm.
it's been really pleasant to read. It's about keeping joy
Uh-huh.
Mm.
in the journey,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's been really helpful too, to
Good.
kind of get some, hey, approach it this way, or hey, do
Try
this.
this.
So
Yeah.
that's been helpful too. I've
Cool.
been enjoying reading.
Good. Good.
I would have to say the one thing that gives me joy every day is my faith.
Okay.
One thing that's very important to me is going to church every Sunday.
Mhm.
It's what refills me,
Mhm.
so to speak. It gives me hope. I feel that the only reason my husband is still here is because God has a purpose for him. Don feels that too.
Mhm.
And while he could, he told everybody his story.
Mhm.
He told everybody, what is it like to live with dementia?
Yeah.
And being able to be with him, still have him here,
Mhm.
it truly brings me joy. And we're just so grateful for it
Mhm.
every single day, even the hard days.
Even the hard
Because
days.
I know tomorrow might be a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep focused on, is that God has blessed us with another day. Let's
Another
see what
day.
we can do with it.
Yeah. When you're at church, does Don stay home?
He has to, because
Yeah,
he can't be
I
around
was going to say he
music.
can't do the
And
music.
so that is the only time of the week
Mhm.
that someone will watch him with no questions for me. It's
Gotcha.
the only thing that I really ever ask,
Mhm.
and is, would you
That's
be
your
able
that's
to
your saving
take
moment.
Dawn to breakfast so I could
Yeah.
go to church?
Yep.
And you wouldn't believe how many people
Of
thank you for
course.
thinking of me.
Mhm.
And whereas before, for the first 10 years, I
Mhm.
didn't want to ask anybody anything because I was so worried that if I asked them now, they wouldn't want to be
Do it
asked
later.
later. And so that
Has
was a
that played
big
out or not?
no-no. No, people are like, why haven't you called me? Does Dawn need to go to
Yeah.
breakfast or something?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, well, yeah, today
Yeah.
or tomorrow would be a great day.
Cool.
And it's
You've
wonderful.
learned.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah. Craig, for you.
I'm lost.
Mhm.
Mr. Clueless.
Uh,
I love it when my wife will go out. She used to want to go everywhere,
Uh-huh.
and it's a struggle even when she has a doctor appointment. What do
Yep.
I need a doctor appointment for?
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Mhm.
And, you know, she used to love to go out. Well, I won't have to do dishes. Well, one day she told me, I'm retired now. I'm not going to cook anymore. And that
nice.
includes doing dishes, doing
Uh-huh.
laundry. But like once a month, she'll just get this energetic spurt. She fixed me some lasagna last week.
Oh.
Wow, that was good. This week she fixed me some potato salad. You know, but normally
Was it good potato salad?
oh, it was delicious.
Ah, so yeah,
nice.
cool.
I think maybe the reason I thought food wasn't as good as it used to be is because I was
You were
fixing it
fixing
instead
it.
of her fixing it.
So
Aw.
that you still get those moments of she's still her every now and then, but it's those hard in between spots
Yeah,
where you're still
yeah,
figuring that stuff out. You're still trying to figure it out. How do you get her to get in the car and come somewhere?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe I should tell her she can't go.
Listen, I'm going to go out. I don't want you coming with me.
Yeah.
Any
She'd
re-
probably say, okay.
Okay, that's fine. Do what you want to do. So, this whole thing called dementia in this caring is really hard work.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yet, building a team can make a real difference. And it sounds like you're starting to work on your teams.
Mhm.
You've got yours and you've accepted that it needs to be bigger than you thought it needed to be. And it's okay to ask for. Craig, have you started building out a team yet?
Again, I'm Mr. Clueless.
Okay.
Our group of friends
Mm-hmm.
is so limited. My children live in Tennessee. Her children live in Virginia.
Yep.
Her sisters are around our age. Her brothers have a life of their own.
Okay.
And we have one niece that lives in our house with us.
Uh-huh.
We don't use the upstairs anymore because it's
That's her
difficult. So that's her place.
space. Okay.
And
And-
but she works all day. So,
Uh-huh.
but in the evening, I do get a break. I get to go in and watch my TV while she sits out on the porch and does whatever women do out there.
Okay. All right. So you get a little bit of a break. Yeah.
Got a neighbor out back that's our age, and
Uh-huh.
sometimes they all get together
Yeah.
and they'll say, well, "Why don't you come out here with us?" I said, "I'm enjoying myself. You just
You guys go on and do your thing out there, Kens. Go on, mid chicken coop.
yeah."
So, yeah. So it sounds like you still have a journey to make, and maybe this diagnostic that you get might help you get hooked up with some ways to get some support that you're going to need. Yeah, you're going to need some for sure. But figuring that out as you move forward. Yeah, because you're still in that starting place, trying to figure out how do I start the engine yet? How do I start the engine here?
Well, the one thing I've done since I've met up with this group is I have gotten our death cert
Living wills,
done
living wills, and your
That's good.
wills, and your
and
healthcare power of attorney.
healthcare power of attorney.
Good
I've
job.
gotten all that done. And
Okay. Well, that's a big thing to
that,
get
that
done.
was a big step.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, I don't know that you're as clueless as you pretend to be
Yeah.
sometimes. I think
You're
you're sort of
doing a-
hiding under your light under the bushel a little
Well,
bit.
You're doing a great
I
job.
well, it's if nothing happens, then you don't know what to do.
Yeah. Sort of figuring out how to get with some folks who might can guide a little bit instead of feeling
Yeah,
so
yeah.
lost in the woods. Good. Well, I want to thank all of you for being so willing to share and open and kind and
Oh, thank you.
so wonderful. Thank y'all.
Thank you
Thank
for what you
you.
do.
Oh,
Yes,
well,
thank you.
it's a
we're in it
pleasure
together
meeting
and
you.
we're all in it together. Yeah. Thank you for making a difference
Thank you.
because you have.